Hello and welcome to a new season of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I'm your host, Tommy McIntyre Jr., and we're going to be talking about Eagles winning against the Browns in Carson Wentz's debut. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Phillies, a recap of their summer, and saying goodbye to a fan favorite in Carlos Ruiz.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hello and welcome back. This is our first show of the new season. I'm your host, like I said before, Tommy McIntyre Jr. It's going to be a good year, and I got some great guests with me today. Elvis Jalakis, thank you so much for coming on the show today to talk a little Eagles and Phillies. And I got this new guy on the show today, Trevor. I appreciate you coming on, talk a little Eagles. So let's get it underway. All right, so let's get that graphic on the board. First game of the season against the Cleveland Browns, and they came out, huge game for Carson Wentz. Didn't really expect him to play at all this season, but considering the Sam Bradford trade that sent him to the Vikings and getting a first round and a fourth round pick down the line, he showed something really special in that first game. Now it is the Browns, so we do have to kind of stand back a little bit and try to wait and see. But what do you think of the first game, Elvis?
I mean, we don't have to get in front of ourselves and say oh, Carson Wentz is going to have a great season. But he showed some spark in that Cleveland game, and it's really nice to see practically our future playing on the field much sooner than we expected. I mean, when I heard the news about Sam Bradford getting traded, I'm like, what are the Eagles doing? But then Carson Wentz just comes on the field and then just almost exceeds expectations with fans and players, and then people across the NFL and their fans as well.
And Trevor, do you feel the same way? What was your kind of first thing about Carson Wentz?
Right, I agree 100%. A lot of people were nervous about his first regular season game as an Eagle. He came out, showed great poise in the pocket. I think he went 8 for 8 against the blitz, which is huge. I mean, granted, it is the Browns. It's not a very strong defense, but at the same time, he seemed like he was mid-season form. He seems like a quarterback that we can keep for a while now.
Yeah, let's get that Carson Wentz graphic up on the screen right now. Man, going off for 22 of 37, 278 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions. So definitely great to see from a young quarterback coming from a D1A school in North Dakota State. Really haven't seen him. I mean, I'm honestly didn't really hear about this guy in college until the last year the draft started coming around. Him and Jared Goff kind of were those 1 and 2 guys up the top of the draft. Eagles decided to move up. They felt really confident in this guy. Peterson's been saying all along that this is the guy they really feel can be the future quarterback for this team. I honestly think we're going places, but we still have to wait and see. Do you think he can continue this, or where do you think he can go with this?
I mean, it's just in due time, I guess. We have to wait and see what he has to do. We have to see how he does against better teams other than the Browns. I mean, we got a big test coming up in 2 weeks against the Pittsburgh Steelers, so it's definitely interesting to see what he has to offer against the Steelers. And I mean, so far he exceeded expectations in my own opinion. I mean, fans love him. They even gave him a standing ovation when he came into the huddle for the first snap, and the place was rocking when he scored the first touchdown, the bullet to J. Matt. So I think the fans love him, and we just, like you said, we just have to wait and see and see what he does with this team.
All right, now let's bring it to a little something else now. Let's talk about the defense. That's a big part of hopefully what we can see from this Eagles team. Jim Schwartz, new defensive coordinator coming in. They look pretty solid on Sunday. Now, again, the Browns, we don't know how good of an offensive team they really are. They haven't been in the years past. New quarterback in RG3 comes in. People don't really know what to judge now. Unfortunately, he's out for a long time now, put on the injured reserve list after a tough hit RG3 took on Sunday. But what do you think? Do you think this defense is going to continue to show the effort? We saw some sacks from some top guys, a guy like Connor Barwin coming up big in the game. Do you think this can continue, Trevor?
I do think so. I think the secondary has some things to work on, but our defensive line showed great things against the Browns. They got after RG3. They sacked him a few times. They They were causing disruption on the front line, and I think that's what we're looking for going into the season.
Dude, it's been amazing to see how well this Jim Schwartz has come in and really re-energized the defense. I think last year it seemed like they didn't have it. They didn't seem like the guy. I don't know if it was the system. I think it was partly the system. They switched now from a 3-4 to a 4-3, which I think actually fits the scheme. Guys like Vinny Curry that is still hurt, but guys like Brandon Graham, especially a guy that just re-upped and signed a nice contract, and especially Fletcher Cox, a guy that is really going to be arguably one of the best defenders in the league on the D-line, and a D-line that is so important for the Eagles. Do you think that a guy like Fletcher Cox is going to be really benefiting from this new defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz?
It's not only Fletcher Cox, it's Vinny Curry, Brandon Graham, Connor Barnum, like the players you mentioned. They're going to flourish in the 4-3 defense, especially with Jim Schwartz under the helm. It's really going to be interesting. It's practically one of my top reasons to be excited for this team in 2016. People have said that there's not a lot of anticipation or excitement with this team. But I think a new coach, and Doug Peterson, a new quarterback, and more specifically, a new defensive coordinator, with our front seven, it's going to be really, really fun to watch.
Now, Elvis mentioned Doug Peterson. Trevor, what are your first interpretations now of this new head coach coming after the Chip Kelly era that kind of divided the city in many ways? Now Chip Kelly's over in San Francisco. He's coming from an Andy Reid mold. A lot of people comparing to Andy Reid. What I saw from his game plan, though, and from the game itself, looks like he's going to want to run the ball a little more balanced. Andy Reid years definitely was more pass heavy. Do you hope that continues, and what were your first impressions of him?
I do hope that continues. Coming from an Andy Reid offense, Andy Reid uses tight ends great, and we have two really good tight ends. And if we can just keep that up, running the ball, Ryan Matthews is a solid running back in the backfield. I think people should be excited about this team. I don't think we can ask for anything more after the first game and going into the Bears in the second game, primetime football.
All right, you mentioned the Bears. Let's get that graphic up because we have the picks for this upcoming week. And they are playing the Bears. It's a Monday night game. This is going to be a new test. Prime time for, like we mentioned before, rookie quarterback in Carson Wentz on the road. Tough environment in those stands in Chicago. You're going to have John Gruden on the air constantly giving his opinion. Let's see. I picked Jordan Matthews. I have a 30-21 win for the Eagles. I just think that that's a team that I think they can beat. I don't think Chicago's that good, but I don't think they're as bad as the Cleveland Browns. So it's going to be a good test, but I think we could pull it off. And Elvis, let's start with you. You have Eagles 28-24, and you have Trey Burton as your MVP of the game. Why'd you pick him, and why do you think the Eagles are going to win?
Well, I think this guy is specifically in his prime. He's going into his prime years. Trey Burton was misused when he was during the Chip Kelly regime, and now he has a chance to prove himself on the field. And he's getting more playing time, but especially Zach Ertz. We don't know how healthy he is.
Yeah, he's hurt now. He won't be in this game.
Yeah, he probably won't be in this game. And we have to see how well he does with Brent Selleck on the other side of the huddle. So we have to see. I mean, this guy can run. This guy can catch. This guy can, most specifically and most importantly, block. He's a good blocker. So I'm really excited to see what Trey Burton has to offer for the Eagles. And like I said, he's going into his prime. So it's really exciting to watch a player like that play on the field.
All right, and now going to Trevor, you picked the Eagles as well, 21-17, and you picked. You really wanted to pick the whole D-line, but you picked explicitly Fletcher Cox as your guy. Why'd you pick basically, why do you think the defense is going to be critical in this game?
I think the defense is going to be critical, especially the defensive line, because the Bears are not, they don't have a very great offensive line, and with the size and strength on our defense, I think all of our defensive linemen are going to have a great game, but I think Fletcher Cox is going to be a standout player, get a couple sacks, a couple tackles for loss. I think it's going to be exciting for the defense in this next game.
Now, we're facing a quarterback in Jay Cutler, who has his long career now, a lot of different opinions on him. He'll have games where he's really good, and then he'll have games where you question how he's still starting the league. What do you think they will have to prepare for into Jay Cutler? What do you think you're going to see from him in this upcoming game?
I mean, we're going to see some qualities that makes him become like a starting quarterback, and some qualities that make him seem elite, and then other qualities where he's getting pressured by our front seven that makes him seem like a above average quarterback. He might not be the best, but he definitely has the arm strength, but he sometimes forces his passes whenever he gets pressured. So he's not the same whenever he has defense blitz him. So, I mean, other than that, Jay Cutler, he's not to be underestimated. I mean, he might seem like just any ordinary quarterback, but he can do some damage against your defense if you're not careful.
All right. And what are your opinions, Trevor, of Jay Cutler and what he's going to bring to the table on Monday night?
Well, I agree. Also, he can be a standout quarterback. He can make big plays, but if we keep him under pressure, I think get him out of his element, especially in Chicago, put some pressure on him, make him get some rush throws, knock him down a few times. I think we can easily get in his head and come up with some big plays on defense, and I think that's going to be the game changer.
Now, we talked a lot about the defense, and we talked a lot about Carson Wentz, but let's talk about some other options on the outside. Jordan Matthews came up huge for the Eagles Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. Do you think he is going to be a deciding factor, especially now that Ertz is out, in the offensive game plan? Or do you also think running backs, maybe Matthews, will be another deciding factor in this game on the offensive side?
I think there's just more than one player that will be a deciding factor, including Matthews and Ryan Matthews, who are going to be on the field. I specifically think Nelson Aguilar can have a good game because he showed something that we saw when he played in college, not like he played last year, because he really struggled last year.
Yeah, he did, and it's kind of it was good to see. Had a lot of off the field controversy and some things going on. So hopefully he's in the clear on those issues and also on the field, because I think watching him, he seems like he has so much talent at USC, and he just hasn't brought that over. And I don't know if it's a mental thing, because it seems like the physical tools are there. And hopefully Carson Wentz could be a quarterback for him to show this in the future games. What do you think? What are the offensive pieces you think are going to be big in this game?
I do think Nelson Aguilar is going to have a big game. I think his first season he struggled just settling in, but I think second season, coming with a quarterback that he can trust, I think he can have a big game. Jordan Matthews, obviously the #1 receiver in Philadelphia, he's going to have a big game. And hopefully we get some tight ends in the mix, because that can just wear down defenses.
Now, as we all say, the Eagles are a team that is going to take over the city. We just saw now that Carson Wentz jersey sales have risen up across the league now. Do you think it's too much hype? Do you think there may be too much hype right now just because we did put the Browns? Or do you think that he could turn into – do you believe he could turn into a franchise QB? Even before he played, did you think you had confidence in him?
I mean, personally, I think I do have confidence that he can be our future. He can be our franchise quarterback, something that we haven't had since Donovan McNabb went to the was it the Vikings, I think, in 2009?
Yeah, we mean after he went to the Redskins.
Yeah. So, I mean, sure. Like we mentioned before, it's just in due time. We have to see how he performs against these different teams, because sure, many anti-fans said that we were not facing an NFL team, but the Cleveland Browns are an NFL team, and they had good players on defense, and Carson Wentz did pretty good.
By the definition, they are an NFL team, correct?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, sure, I'll give it a couple weeks until I could fully jump on the Wentz wagon.
Oh, yeah, as Joe Biden, the vice president, has basically quoted. And Trevor, I guess last thoughts on the Eagles here, and Carson Wentz as kind of the hype train has kind of come his way.
I mean, I think we should be excited. He showed us great things. I think he can turn into a franchise quarterback, but at the same time, we need to take a step back and give respect to the rest of the league. These teams are going to come out and play really hard against us. We have a tougher schedule. So if we lose, it'll be a learning experience in his first year. But if we win, I think people are just going to get more and more excited.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Elvis, you'll be joining us back after the commercial break. But Trevor, we're going to bring in Kevin Cook now, our Phillies insider. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Of course.
All right, here's our first commercial break. We'll be back to talk some Phillies.
You might feel like there's too many problems in the world, or that you as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old can't really make a difference.
It's not always about you. It's not just one person. It's a group. It's a team. If we all show up together, that's what it's all about.
I was a part of helping to build what it is today.
I'm really lucky to get to be a part of that legacy.
Just that simple act that takes 5 or 10 minutes of your time is making a difference and is transforming someone else's life.
Once you get there and realize how much you can change someone's life, it's one of the best feelings in the world.
I'd do anything to convince you just to be a part of this.
You guys keep doing what you're doing. It's something special.
Get up and try something. Just try it. Just go to one event, one action team event,
It'll just make you feel so good about yourself.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hello and welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk a little Phillies now, and I'm joined by Kevin Cook, a little Phillies insider here and co-producer on Philly Sports Talk. And so thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. Yep. And we'll start with you. Phillies summer season is pretty much closing now. We're coming towards the end of September. What did you think? Obviously, the wins were not the main thing we were looking for in this season. It was more development of young guys, especially a guy like Michael Franco coming in his second season and trying to see what he could do. What have you seen from them, and do you see future in the pitching staff and the rest and down the line for us to get back to that World Series success we had years ago?
Yeah, there's definitely a future for this team. Just the number of players right off the bat, like you said, Franco, Tommy Joseph, Roman Quinn just came up, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit. But there's a lot of young core players that this team looks like they have, starting with the pitching too. Velasquez, Nola, who struggled down the line there, and Eichhoff, who's actually turned out to have a pretty good year this year. But like you said, it's not really about the wins with the Phillies, although in the beginning of the year they were winning a lot, and that was a nice sign to see from a very young team.
Now, Elvis, obviously Phillies, they're coming down to a close here. You got guys like Tommy Joseph, Michael Franco, Roman Quinn coming up, showing a little something from Double-A, maybe not even have to go to Triple-A to be a big leaguer. Are you looking forward to the years to come from this team?
Most definitely, because we certainly got a bright future, and we got a really bright farm league as well. We got guys coming up, like you said, Roman Quinn. We got Jorge Alfaro coming up. We got other pitchers that are waiting to be called up, or just players in particular, from Reading, from Lehigh Valley, from everywhere. And it's really exciting to see how these players perform at the major league level. They're going to get like a taste of baseball pie a little bit before they go back down to like spring training or something. But it's really exciting to see like almost like future superstars, where if you're going to drive down to the ballpark, you're going to see banners of these guys soon. So it's nice to at least imagine to see like what they will do in the near future.
All right, let's get that graphic up actually of all the Phillies players this year, the stats. So we got 22 home runs for Franco. Joseph had 19 right behind him, and Hellickson 11 wins, the most on the Phillies. So Kevin, what do you kind of think of those stats, and who was your highlights of this season?
Well, all those guys have all had pretty good seasons. One of the nice surprises, actually, a couple of them, Galvis came in. Me and Elvis were talking about this earlier. He's really hitting the ball well, and he's actually hit a lot more home runs than probably anybody would have expected. Another guy is Cesar Hernandez, the second baseman. He's hitting, I think he's got the highest average on the team, so he's hitting the ball pretty well too. As for like some of the pitching, we saw Hellickson. That's actually the league leading in wins there, and that's a great sign there from Phillies GM Klentak, because he targeted him going into the offseason last year, and I'm sure we're going to see a couple other pitchers just like that, and players too, where they might not be coming off the best years, but Klentak's going to give them a chance, and then possibly you could see them getting moved for another young prospect down the line.
All right, so to wrap up maybe the season now, we had to say goodbye to a Philly in Carlos Ruiz. Elvis, what were your thoughts of this guy and what he meant to this team in those World Series runs?
Well, my heart sank when I heard that Chooch got traded to the Dodgers. But it was tough. It was really tough because he was one of my favorite players on the Phillies, especially when he was just starting out with the Phillies. And we used to call him Señor Octobre because he used to be really good in postseason baseball. So yeah, I mean, he meant so much to this team. He was practically the guy that we built around this team around because people loved Chooch, including Roy Halladay, any pitcher that he caught for. They loved him, and the fans loved him, and it's sad, but it's the business aspect of baseball. So.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I think that's about it for Phillies talk. Let's go to Fast Five, where I'm going to ask 5 questions of these guys about news in the sporting world, Olympics, and a little bit more about the other teams, Sixers as well. So we'll start off with you, Kevin. Did you watch the Olympics this semester?
I watched.
I mean, that's in the summer. And what was your favorite events of the Rio Olympics?
I did watch some of the Olympics. I watched some of the men's basketball towards the end. Obviously, in the beginning, it wasn't much of a competition for them, but then they started giving us a scare. I also like the women's soccer team, so I was watching them, and I was surprised that they got eliminated so early. But all in all, I mean, we dominated the Olympics, so it was a nice time if you were American to watch them.
All right, Elvis, I'm putting you on the spot, but what will Ryan Howard's career be remembered as? Because this probably will be his last season as a Philly. What do you think he'll be remembered as when it's all said and done?
I personally will remember him for his almost 60-plus home runs that he put in 2006, then giving us our first World Series championship since 1980, back in 2008. And I will mostly remember him as the big piece. I mean, our franchise first baseman practically. He's been loved by the fans. Even during his struggles, he's been loved by the fans. And he will definitely have his plaque on the Wall of Fame coming in a couple years.
Absolutely. I was actually surprised that Jim Thome, another first baseman I was surprised he actually got on the Wall of Fame.
Yeah.
Just because he wasn't really here too long. But I think that his presence kind of built that team that we now all know, and Utley and Howard and Rollins and Hamels and so on. And but definitely, we're going to see a lot of guys from that era down the line pretty soon. Going back to Kevin, so let's talk about Sixers. What are your thoughts on the Sixers coming up this season? Training camp looks like it's going to get. It's coming up. It's actually, the practice facility's not open yet, so they're coming down to my train, actually going down to Stockton, down in South Jersey, and they're going to have a little training camp down there. What are you looking for? You got Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric is here.
A lot of, like you're saying, a lot of first-year players for him. I mean, you left out Luawu too. They got a number of
Is he going to make the team though? I don't know. It's going to be tough.
We'll see.
Because they just signed Elton Brand.
Yeah, obviously, I think you got to look forward to, if you're a Sixers fan, number one person you're looking forward to is Joel Embiid. It's coming up now, like his 3rd season, and we haven't seen anything. So definitely exciting to see what Joel's got in the tank.
Man, I can't wait for the Sixers season. It's so enticing. But now with the Carson Wentz thing, because I didn't think he was going to play, so now it's like I got Eagles to watch.
Future's looking good.
It's looking good. I think we're like maybe 3 years down the line.
Exactly.
I feel like every team though in 3 years may actually be good. Like right now, every team's kind of like, 3 years, we may all be, hey, we're pretty good right now. So.
I just wish that we can look back on this and say Villanova started it all with the national championship.
No, that was great. We are LaSalle, but you got to give respects to Villanova. Yep. Some people don't say they're a really Philly school because they're not on the Broad Street line, they're not Temple, they're not us. Yeah. But at the same time, that shot, you can't really forget that. Yeah. And that is a Philly moment. This is Sports Talk Philadelphia. You can't deny that was a huge thing. All right, so Elvis, let's see. What will the Eagles' record be? What is it going to be this season?
Oh,
I know it's kind of weird now because we had to reevaluate everything with Sam Bradford being traded because a lot of people actually thought they could win the division. Now Carson Wentz didn't know what we were going to see of him. He looked nice, but can he continue this? So what do you think? What's the record going to be?
I think the record, best case scenario, would be 10-6. Worst case scenario is 8-8 in my own opinion.
Wow, worst case 8-8?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a pretty positive
Wow,
worst case scenario right
like,
there.
Man, do you go like fortune telling on the weekends? Man, people are like very so-called experts really don't think the Philly Eagles are going to get over like 6 wins this season. So for you to think 8-8 is the least, I like it. As an Eagles fan, I like it. I don't know. I mean, we got to wait and see. It's a tough schedule.
Yeah.
We saw what the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to do this past week, and Antonio Brown, that Ben Roethlisberger combo. I have Antonio Brown on my fantasy team, so I'm liking that. But I mean, for other teams, that could be tough. So that's a tough team down the line.
Yeah.
Kevin, what do you think? What's your prediction, Eagles?
Well, actually, I'm not going to be able to talk about that.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
But
The other question I want to issue, Kevin, was actually so Philly teams in the city. What's the first team that's going to win a title?
I don't know. That's tough. They're all, like we were saying, they all appear to be right there. I would say right now, probably the most win right now team would probably be the Flyers. It seems as if they're maybe 1 or 2 pieces away from being a team that competes right now, and they got a lot of young prospects coming up, so possibly it could be the Flyers.
All right, that's going to wrap us up for Fast 5. But I do want to mention one more thing, because the Eagles and the Sixers and these teams are actually like at an interesting point. It's been a while since we had the Phillies, the Eagles, and the Sixers all have like top picks in the draft. Mm-hmm. Do you think that a guy like a Ben Simmons, Kevin, is going to take over this city? He is the #1 guy. He is a very pass-heavy guy. He won't be a big scorer, but do you think a guy like him can really turn the city around and turn it into a basketball city? It seems like a lot of fans out there are on the Sixers right now.
Yeah, and like you were saying, he is kind of that pass-first type of player. I believe Shaq was saying it. Obviously, the Hall of Fame inductee was talking about Simmons not too long ago, and he said that he sees a lot of LeBron in Simmons. So it's a lot of high praise going towards Simmons and towards the Sixers right now. And another Hall of Fame inductee, Allen Iverson, who was so beloved and was really the last great superstar that the city has seen, is kind of the type of player that I think that we could get out of Simmons, that guy that, exactly like I said, is the franchise player and could be one of the best players in the NBA.
All right, guys, thank you so much. That's going to do us here on Sports Talk Philadelphia for this week. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. You can email us. You can find us on LaSalle TV. We air at 10:30 on Thursdays, so you can definitely check us out there as well. Thank you so much to my panel, for Trevor, for Elvis, and for Kevin. I'm Tommy McIntyre Jr. Tune in again next week. Thank you so much.